Generation X. This is the hardest working generation that has ever existed in the history of mankind. Being born in the face of the Cold War, the collapse of the Berlin Wall, the advent of HIV and AIDS, and working as hard as possible was the only option they had to survive the transformation of civilization they had been hit by. This is one reality the millennials and Gen Zs will never understand, being born in the era of technology and the internet. But what is the reason for the solid work ethic of Gen X, which many people say is the hardest working generation? Gen X vs other generations today. It's no secret that a favorite pastime of Gen Zs and millennials is complaining about people not understanding them. "You don't understand us" is the whiny slogan of these two generations put together. It's the banner they march behind. They believe that no one in history can relate to or understand their difficulties, and no one has ever had it worse than they have. However, this is not entirely true. We love to talk about the ongoing cultural and economic war between the baby boomers and millennials, and even the rise of the new Generation Z. But there's one group that's often overlooked in these conversations, and that's Generation X, the ones who grew up between boomers and millennials, and like many middle children were overshadowed by both. You might be wondering why Gen X deserves more credit for quietly changing the world, and I'm going to explain it to you. Baby boomers inherited a thriving economy in the United States and immediately went all out to destroy it, as well as the environment. They increased the national debt and consumed record amounts of fossil fuels. Meanwhile, Gen Xers had a completely different growing up experience than their parents, in that during the 1960s and 1970s, the divorce rate in the United States surged, resulting in new family dynamics, and it became more typical for women to join the workforce rather than stay home. Because childcare programs were not yet common, many Gen X children spent a lot of their time with little to no adult supervision, as their parents were at work when they got out of school. This is why the term latchkey generation is used to describe this demographic cohort. A latchkey kid is a child who arrives home alone after school since their parents are at work. The term relates to the key that the children either carry with them or collect from underneath the mat on the porch to open the door. Their youth was a turbulent period in the United States, with a constant crack epidemic, a surge in violent crime, and the emergence of the AIDS epidemic. In their youth, the media portrayed Generation X as disillusioned, indifferent, cynical, and lazy. They were the MTV generation, which witnessed the rise of music videos, grunge music, and hip-hop. They were obstinate and reluctant to grow up. But we all have to grow up. And when Gen Xers did, they shattered everyone's prejudices about them. According to a Stanford University study, Gen X youth were more cynical and frustrated than prior generations were when they were young. But they also discovered that all generations were more cynical and frustrated during this period, implying that it was not a Gen X phenomenon. In fact, being unable to rely significantly on their parents may have taught the latchkey generation to work hard and be independent, which contributed to their future success. Millennials and Generation Z are often defined by their attachment to the internet and technology, but Generation X was the first to grow up with computers and video games in the house. Generation X grew up to become the pioneers of the contemporary Silicon Valley tech industry and the driving force behind the country's economic resurgence in the 1990s. Their previously discussed rebelliousness and arrogance for authority fueled innovation and upheaval in a variety of areas. It's strange to think of Jeff Bezos on the edge of Gen X as a disillusioned young person spearheading a revolution against traditional retail giants, when he's now the richest man on the planet and is viewed as corporatism personified by many of today's youth. In reality, some of today's most well-known leaders are from Generation X, including Elon Musk, Larry Page, Susan Wojcicki, Jony Ive, Justin Trudeau, and ironically, Jay-Z. It turns out that challenging the status quo is a really solid business strategy and a wonderful driver of innovation. Because Gen Xers grew up in an analog environment before the personal computer, they have a unique perspective on how to connect the past and the future. This, I believe, is a key to their success, but it also explains why they are often disregarded now. Generation X today. These days, Gen Xers are either mid-career professionals or they hold leadership roles. The circumstances surrounding the time this generation was born are responsible for their skill, experience, and for their hard work ethics, for which they are highly respected. They may, however, be a smaller generation than the baby boomers or millennials, which could result in a talent deficit when they retire or take on new responsibilities. Interestingly, within the last couple of decades, there has been a significant transition, especially in terms of the number of people employed. Baby boomers, Generation X, Millennials, and Generation Z will be the dominant generations in the workforce in 2024. But the question is, will the Millennials and Gen Z be able to cope when the Gen Xers are out of the workplace? Due to their upbringing in the shadows of the powerful Boomer generation, these Gen X employees possess independence, resilience, and adaptability. This generation, in contrast to the Baby Boomers, works to live and carries a certain pessimism with them. They love it when they are in full control, working by their own rules and style, especially in handling difficult tasks. They are comfortable challenging authority and view a job as simply that, a job. Not just that, these guys advanced from just meager workers into management posts during and after the recession. The capacity of Generation X in the workplace. Gen Xers are known to be independent, autonomous, and enterprising, and they frequently figure out ways to increase success and productivity at work. Being able to survive the harshest era in history, Gen Xers are frequently naturally good at solving difficulties and coming up with original and unconventional solutions. Because of their creative work approach, many Generation Xers tend to function excellently well in leadership positions, bringing their wealth of personal knowledge and wealth of experience to any team and any role they occupy. This is largely because many of them started working right out of school, and they were able to hone their team building and leadership capabilities right from the onset, contrary to many Gen Zs. Stretched but not broken. According to the 2023 Asia Mental Health Index by Aon and TELUS Health, Generation Xers feel less stressed than their younger counterparts and can focus more effectively at work than people under 40. The findings showed that younger workers are more fatigued than older ones, saying that employees under 40 years of age are nearly 50% more likely than employees older than 50 to feel mentally and/or physically exhausted at the end of their workday. According to the AON analysis, those over 50 have strained mental health, but people under 40 in Asia have distressed mental health. It also proves that productivity and mental wellness are directly correlated. As for Gen Zs, they feel the most stress as most of their work only requires mental strength with little or no physical effort. The study shows that employees under 40 are particularly feeling the strain of poor mental health, whilst those between 20 to 29 years old are significantly worse off, with a mental health index score of 57.8, representing the most strain and the highest mental health risk of any age group by a significant margin. It is obvious that every generation has played its part in advancing the world, but the hard truth is no generation has put in the work, time, discipline, and commitment like Gen X. Even though their time is gradually coming to an end, their absence will create an irreplaceable vacuum in the workplace. Let me know what other notable Gen Xers you can think of, and how you think being a Gen Xer has helped shape their success today. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and if you are new here, click on the notification button so that you'll be notified anytime I post a new video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.